We are a 32-year-old practice. We are very fortunate that there is one world which God made, there is another world which humans made. Our habitats have to be in consonance with the entire natural system. Who is stopping you from that? Who is making you feel inferior? It cannot decompose for very, very long time. That you use something which is what you need and nothing more than what you need. Hi, I'm architect Monica Khosla Bhargava, founder and principal architect of Kham Consultants. I founded Kham in 1992 and it's been a long journey since then. We are a 32-year-old practice. We practice all the verticals of architecture, urban design, interior design and landscape. And what that does is it gives a very holistic profile to the project, because almost all the aspects of the design are addressed through each and every project. And we are very fortunate that now we are working more or less all over India and sometimes a little bit beyond in neighboring countries like Bhutan. And that really adds to our experience and the way we look at the project, because we learn from that project as much as we feel that that project gains from our existence being in this part of the world. My first inspiration of becoming an architect was when I read about the life of Michelangelo. I was in school, I was just 12 years old, and there was a page when Michelangelo, he's designing the Sistine Chapel ceiling, and he says that there is one world which God made, in which there are the mountains and the plains and the skies and the seas and the sands. And this is not the world that we live in. Within this world that God made, there is another world which humans made. I would like to say which architects make. And it is in that world, you know, the roads, the houses, the way we navigate every day from that moment that we wake up in the morning to our destination and back, that entire movement of our day is, the way it is designed is due to the work of some architect. And it highly influences the way we live and we think. And that really inspired me actually to study architecture, and got into JU, and then I went on to do my master's in urban design at SPA, and I furthered that with a fellowship at Lund University in Sweden. So there were several things that I learned, which was not just about architecture but also about how architecture is in the city, because actually that is how it shapes human life. It's highly based on nature. Most of the time, you know, we look at nature as if it is different from us. We never realize that we are the part of nature. Just like the plants, the other animals, etc., everyone is a part of nature. And if we don't understand that aspect, our designs get highly alienated from nature. Because what we do is we think we are putting nature into it. We are also nature. We have to understand that our habitats that we have to create have to be in consonance with the entire natural system. Once we understand that, automatically our design is sustainable. This aspect of nature which I work on is like further, because I'm also a floral artist, and to some extent I can say an international floral artist, and represent India in many international events in the world flower shows. And that has taught me a lot about design, because while architectural design can totally be pre-planned with all the elements, when you design with nature and natural elements, and the moment you go to implement it, each time it presents you with a difference, because each twig is different, each flower is different, and it makes you understand the vagaries with which you have to design. And I love to bring that element of organic into the designs that I do. And also this sensitive feel of understanding nature in a very intimate way. So I think that's one of the major ways of designing. Second thing is that if I look at traditional design or a lot of design where architects love that their own building should be like the hero of the space or the main thing in the space or very attractive or very monumental. And I feel that aspect is very much belonging to medieval times. In a democratic system, we need that our architecture be more invisible, more merging with everything, more merging with the style of the space, with the natural landscape and the architecture that is around. And only then we can make a democratic system. For instance, you see some very swanky looking mall and let's say you have less money in your pocket. When you stand in front of that building, you feel intimidated. You're not sure, can I enter this building? Who is stopping you from that? Who is making you feel inferior? It's the architecture. So it's important for us to understand that architecture cannot create differences. Architecture has to make people feel equal and welcome. And that's one of the aspects of architecture that I work with. Smart design and smart architecture is a way of improving ourselves with technology. And that is the best thing because when we talk about sustainable design, a lot of design is based on economizing the resources that we have. And smart solutions help us to achieve that in a very easy way. And I think that's the biggest aspect of smart architecture and smart designs that we use. We can also use it in a very negative way, but I'm really happy to see that the design community is taking it forward in a very sensitive and very good way. I will highly recommend everyone that you visit Kolkata just once during the Durga Puja festival, and you will have no doubt that it is the design capital of the world. It's just the difference is that we don't see this creativity which is being put up at that time by big names or big architects or big designers. It's being put up by the people, by the craftsmen, by the artists and by the entire community who's working on design. But the level of design is phenomenal. Even if you look at lighting design and if you go to Chandan Nagar, the fact that big international brands, they are bringing in animation, etc. into design, smart solutions now, but it's being done for the festival by these people from a long time. And so we have a lot to learn from the design community which exists here. That's really one of the very important parts I feel about Kolkata, and I love using all of this expertise in the work that we do. Architecture is one of the disciplines which causes the maximum pollution. It is a huge generator of pollution, and which is why it is important for us to understand sustainability in this profession. So to understand sustainability a little more than the surface look of certain materials that we may be using, we have to understand it also means less consumption. It's a concept which is not capitalistic, not materialistic. It requires that you consume less, that you use something which is what you need and nothing more than what you need. Also requires that you use the correct kind of materials for that purpose. So I think that this requires intervention from a whole community, not just architects. You see, there are developers, there are agencies who have investments in certain areas, and we require that all that reduce before we come down to the unit of a building. And within that building, of course, we need to address every single aspect of making it merge with our natural systems. So my criteria for generally all the material selection is that it should be local, it should be very easily procured, and secondly, I really like to promote the industrial production of this material. I'm giving another small example. For instance, we look at bricks or we look at earthen materials. Many a time we think that this is a sustainable product, but the fact is that this brick or this chai ka kulhad or this earthen pot or this earthen tile is made from the best alluvial soil, and after it has been baked in a kiln, it cannot decompose for very long time, so it becomes highly unsustainable. And in comparison to that, if we use industrial waste, then what are we doing? We are getting a two-pronged win. We are using the industrial waste, which otherwise would also add to the landfill, and secondly, we are getting a building product, and the third thing is that we are being able to save our natural resource. And that natural resource is so important because it gives us something without which we cannot live, and that is our food. Every person who makes a house is also an architect. Now, the difference is between them and, let's say, the beginning. When a person comes to a city, puts up 5-6 bamboos, puts a roofing, that is also that person's house. That person has made it. The difference between a person making the house and a technically qualified person making that house is that this person will give them guidance to make it better for their living, ultimate living. It will become a cheaper way. Yes, some fees is needed to be given. Just like going to a doctor, you have to pay a little bit of fee and then you will get well. Similarly, a fee has to be paid and you will get a much better way to live. This is one of the main aspects of hiring an architect. The second thing is that the profession of architecture, it has not been portrayed itself in the correct way. It has been portrayed in an elitist manner, that this profession belongs to elite, because in our country the maximum number of people, they are starved of the availability of good housing. They do not have proper places to live, and that highly affects the whole way they are going to live their life. So this is one of the first criteria, whether it is to be taken up by government agencies or private agencies. People should go through this with architects so that this problem can be addressed. Today, a lot of people are making houses as second houses or third houses for people who don't need any more houses. The main segment of our country which needs the housing is not being provided the housing, and that is the place which needs the architects to work in. And at that time, they are going to really appreciate the work that is to be done. So I feel there are a lot of new yojnas which are there, which people can avail. A lot of small government also makes places or plots available from the change of agricultural or to vastu land, so that people can build their houses on it. And I think they need to concentrate on making smaller units, but much more available for everybody. I mean, that architecture for all has to be like a basic human right.